Alright guys, today I'll be interviewing the real MVP, the Odogu of the Odogu, the emperor, the champion. My mom, she's not just your regular superhero. She's a doctor and professor by day. She's an actress by divine intervention. She's a youth pastor. Weekends, she's also a pastor. So, you know, there are a lot of things going on around it. So today, I hope you're going to have fun with us as we're interviewing her. Today with me, I have my sister. My name is Feyi Adewale, and my sister here also is
Mercy Adepoju.
So, can we meet you?
All right, so before I introduce myself, you said something, M what?
MVP.
MVP. So what's it?
It means the most valuable player.
Oh,
Yeah.
So I'm Feyi Adepoju.
I'm going to interrupt you, sorry. There are places to this. Some of us to our Feyi. We said I want to say yeah, so please.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Because some of you took one Feyi and took 1 year mission where then you had, mine is Feyi Shayo Adepoju. An eye surgeon, a consultant ophthalmologist at the University of Ilorin Teaching Hospital, and a lecturer at the University of Ilorin. I'm also a pastor of Abundant-Life Gospel Church and the youth pastor. What else? I'm a travel minister. I'm a mother and a wife for a number of years now.
Should we tell them? Should we tell them?
Okay, also a grandmother. A grandmother of 3.
Coincidence.
Okay, so that's sweet. That's all.
Okay, thank you. So let's start from the beginning. So what inspired you to pursue your career in medicine, and how do you balance and juggle that with being a successful doctor, professor, and a mother of 6 and many more, raising the 6 of us as we're growing up? Because I know we're cool children, yeah, but there will be challenges. So how do you balance? How do you juggle all those together?
Yes, you're correct. I'm a mother of 6, 4 biological, 2 adopted. And
many more.
And yes, I'm blessed with several other children, fantastic children. And I'm grateful to God for that, because I think He, by Himself, keep directing them to us. So how did I land in medicine? Like any other young person at that time, you just go to school. So I was in school, primary school, secondary school, and once you just have good grades, nobody really ask you.
That's it.
It's just like once you have good grades, you should just be medicine. Because looking back, sometimes I do really say, if it wasn't like that, maybe I would have been in a different profession, truly. Like maybe I could have been dancing. I still like to dance, or I could be in any of these arts. Because in secondary school, I used to cast names. I was a news caster in secondary school. So I think basically that was how it happened. And then, boom, I found myself in medical school. And the only other angle that I know I could speak about how I landed as an ophthalmologist. At that time, of course, I was already a doctor. I did house job, and I was really thinking about, okay, so what specialty will I like to pursue? And back then, I finished in Zaria, Adepoju University, Zaria, in 1991. And by divine providence, I came out as the best overall medical student. And I had several other prizes. I recall that I had the best prize in surgery, best prize in pediatrics, best prize in community medicine, best prize in O&G. And there was another best prize, I can't remember. Why I'm recalling that is the fact that I had a best prize in O&G and there was a group, women in Nigeria then, they were very strong, and they of course wanted to have more female O&G, gynecologists. And so they came to me and said, do O&G, we're going to give you scholarship, we're going to sponsor you in your residency. There was a hot demand for female gynecologists in the east, in the north there, And then I had several teachers, some of them were professors, who wanted me to do O&G. So the pressure was really high. One of them in particular gave me all the books I could need to do O&G. So, but then O&G in Zaria was very, very demanding. If you do house job in Ops and Gynae and you do not flood your house or burn your flat, you have not done posting. Because it's common to be in the hospital 72 hours non-stop. So by the time you land in your room, you're probably going to just sleep off. So one particular fateful day, I fell into that thing. I was leaving the hospital 6 a.m. I spent 72 hours continuous. So I met this wonderful teacher. He's a professor now, but we call him Professor Musa. So he saw me walking back and he said, come, Grace. I was popularly called Grace then. If you do O&G, let it be your choice. Don't say because I'll pressure with you. And I said, thank you, sir. So that's helped me. That solved the angle of, will I have to be in O&G? But then the question was still, what would I like to specialize in? And at that point, I remember a key consideration. I thought, if I'm going to do a specialization, I want a specialization that have surgical component. Yeah, so that at least I can do surgery. But I also wanted a subspecialty that would give me ample time to pursue my calling. That time, my calling, I thought, was singing. I was so sure it was going to be singing because I used to unknowingly sing everywhere in the hospital, and then they would call me singing surgeon. Most of my colleagues today who meet, they would still say, hey, singing surgeon, So I thought if I was going to go into music ministry, I wanted a subspecialty that would give me time, that would be in the surgical field, but would still afford me some ample time. So there are certain specialty that was like, this is what go area. Specialty where there are several emergencies where you must really be on ground like 24/7 if you're doing residency. So that's how I came up with ophthalmology. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did, yeah. You see, the angle of balance, I really don't know. Because when you say balance, does it anything? I recall that immediately I finished NYC. I did my NYC in Kwara State. We had done a court wedding just before, I think in May, and then NYC was supposed to be in November. And our wedding was supposed to be in November. So we then said, okay, let's do a court wedding. And then with that certificate, then I could put my posting in Kwara.
Also, man is quiet.
So let me share one thing about that NYC. Wedding was supposed to be November 21st, something like that. And then we started the camp on the 10th of November. And I was supposed to make our wedding cake. That's what I still used to do a lot of baking. Even after marriage, we were doing a whole lot of baking, wedding cake, birthday cakes. So I was to do our wedding cake. It was supposed to be plenty cakes, We did like a castle. So I reported to the camping. What's the name of the camp in Kwara? And I forgot it. So I was like, wedding is like 2 weeks then. How hope this mean-looking soldiers, give me time. So I approached them after a couple of days. And the man I met, the commander or whatever, I said, you can only get permission 2 days to the wedding, and you return back to the camp 2 days after the wedding. I was like, how is that going to fly? How will I bake all the cakes? So I was praying, I was saying, God, you have to help me, So when it was a week to the wedding, they asked me to write a letter. So I wrote a letter. And then there's a portion where you write the date you are leaving and the date you are returning. So because I didn't want like the 2 days to the wedding, I didn't write a date to leave. And I didn't write a date to return. So I just wrote the letter. There's a format and I signed. So I went back to the same man one beautiful morning, a week to the wedding. I said, sir, I discussed with you about my wedding. And he said, oh, yes, yes, yes. Where's your letter? And then he looked at the letter. And then he just signed.
Oh, lunch it.
And then gave it to me. I was like, he's going to call me back. And then I walked out. And he didn't call me back. So when I went to the hostel, because we had and the person there just collected and when they photocopy and say, you can go. Wow. That was like a week to the wedding. So after the wedding, we traveled a week for honeymoon.
You can't finish.
The camp remained 3 days. So back in the camp. And when the man saw me, he said, where have you been? I said, sir, you get me back. But that's one miracle I first got. So, I mean, I could really have enough time to do the wedding. So all through, why I'm sharing that part is all through in trying to combine most of these things. I keep seeing the hand of God. I keep seeing him helping me, making a way, even when things looks very tight. And shortly after NYC, I started like residency training. And I just got married not so long. So pregnancy, child raising, childbearing, everything was just going at the same time. So for almost all my fellowship exam, is either I'm there with a big tummy or a 2-week-old baby.
Okay, sorry, I have to ask you. So, about me, was it when I was 2 weeks old that you carried me there, or it was my pregnancy?
For you know, that would be primary exam. It was like 5 months old pregnancy.
Wow. So I think for exam, not only
for the exam, both the national and West Africa. And I think you were the 2-week-old.
Wow.
For part one of the part one. I recall we traveled to Ibadan, you were like 2-week-old. My husband was there with me. My mommy also followed. So you were a small baby, 2-week-old. But then for the last boy, the last born, exam was to be November 9th or something like that. Starting maybe November 9th or 11th. And my EDD was like a day or two. And my tummy was really gross. So I was really feeling very embarrassed.
I'll go
again, you know? I think the second baby blessing was a big pregnancy for something funny like that. So I said, if I go again now, this one I was like, what they say? And then what if labor starts in the middle of the exam? So I told my husband, I said, let's go for induction. This one that EDD is like 9th of November. Exam is like 11th of November or something like that. I said, let's go for induction. Che! I didn't know that thing can be painful. I won't try it again. So I went for induction. Daddy, my husband followed me. Let me know share that experience. Eventually baby came. And then, was it the second morning after baby came? Myself, my husband, my mommy, we traveled to Lagos for exam. And the exam started when baby was like 3 days. Wow. And I recall somewhere along the line during the exam was doing and then they had to bring him back quickly breastfed him. But even through it all, like I said, God has been so faithful. I passed all the exams at one city. And one of the major exams, the part one, I got the best prize. So that's why I keep saying that all through it, I keep seeing God's help, God's grace, His strength, His enablement. By the time we came back for the part 2 exam, and we just announced naming is 2 days from time, and people were like, when did you put to bed, So I really want to thank God for giving that grace, giving that strength and enablement. And beyond saying thanks to God for all that He has done, He also blessed me with wonderful people. My mommy and my husband, some helps. People that really, I can't write all of the story without mentioning their contribution. I recall that some helps the Lord gave us at the house. I could leave my house in the morning, go to the hospital, and my mind is at peace, that the children will be well taken care of, or at least until I closed from work and come. And during the course of the training, I also remember that we had to go to a battle for like a year posting before part 1 exam and the fellowship. And you were quite, I think maybe 3-year-old, I can't remember, and you blessing the second biological daughter would be like less than a year, if I recall. And we had to go and do that posting. That means I have to leave Ilorin and move to UCH there for the 1 year posting. So we're considering how do we go, who takes care of the children. And my mom said, bring the children to Iwosu, I'll care for them. I think the two were taken there for a day or two, and then my husband went back and carried his children and said, I'm going to nurse them by myself. So he did nurse the two very young kids, for close to a year by himself. And I must say, that's also a very great support, for you to be able to leave very young children in the hand of their nursing father, who did a fantastic job. So copying, I've said God has been faithful. He's also giving me great husband, great mother, great people at home who were of great support, tremendous support. The other thing he helped me with is to give me some form of ideas or insight as to how to go about it. Sometimes I keep wondering how those directions or directive come and how those instructions came. Some I must say were actually divine revelations about why don't you do it like this? Why are you struggling to do this? Why don't you do it like that? And I recall there was a particular one that was like a very loud audible voice to me. And that was one of the first few instances where I would come to a conclusion that, oh, this is God speaking. And to the basic of, you need to go this way, you need to do it like this to make life easy. So I really thank God for those inspirations, those instructions, those directives. If time permits, I may share one or two of those, very practical directives as to how. But the other things I picked up along the line, reading the scriptures, reading books. I recall I used to read a whole lot of books. There was one particular book I can't remember the author, was talking about women who have a lot to do. I'm still looking for that book. If I find it, I want to buy it again. Because I got so many insights from that book, from how to organize your house, how to make it easy to keep clean and maintain, several practical things like that. I'm sorry I can't remember the author. I've been trying to recall that author. So I got a lot from books. I got a lot from scriptures. I got a lot of insight, for instance, from the Proverbs 31 woman. And I keep reading and say, if this single woman, I do not want to think was just a fictitious concoction, must have been someone who lived sometimes ago. And I keep looking. So how was she able to, lengthen her days? How was she able to keep a house? The scripture says nobody was sleeping in the cold in a house. Everybody had their needs met, and she was a businesswoman, and she took care of her husband well enough for the Bible to say the husband was well known in the gate. So I keep looking at from that Proverbs 31 verse 10 to the end. How come this woman was able to? So I was learning a lot. I knew she had maids, she had helps, and the Bible says she'll wake up and give assignment to each of them and give them their food and their portion. So I learned a lot from that. And several others, like Deborah, for instance, I just tried to read about her to say, so how did she cope? If she was a wife of Lapidot, if she was a judge, if she was that and that. And I kept asking, so how, if these people have been in time past enabled to have different parts of their lives, and the scripture recorded they did well, I can also do well. So that is one major mindset I got from the scriptures. If that happened before, it can also happen through me. And so I think the mindset is key to me. The mindset that it is possible. Not that it's easy, but it is possible.